Happy 9th anniversary, Beck. Ready for a birthday video? Howdy, Clods. Mighty Number 9 is a game surrounded in a lot of controversy, but this video is mostly about the game itself. But you do need a little bit of context to understand why it's in the state that it's in even 9 years later. It started with Keiji Inafune, the creator of Mega Man, leaving Capcom because he thought gaming was on a decline, specifically at Capcom. Look, I never claimed he could see the future. So he founded a company called Concept. Their job was to pitch games to then be sold, or they would commission devs to make the games on their behalf. Concept would provide the design documents and assist, but the development process was purely left to whoever they commissioned. Keiji basically wasn't making games anymore. He was an ideas man now, which is an overrated job. Anyone can come up with ideas. 2013 rolls around and he announces a Kickstarter for a spiritual successor to Mega Man. He called it Mighty Number 9. Keiji made it seem like he was going to be making the game of his dreams, taking the Mega Man name back from Capcom and making it without his oppressive corporate overlord. Everyone was excited, and the game was funded overnight, with 4 million total being raised by the end of the campaign. The timing of the announcement was perfect. It had been years since a new Mega Man came out. Capcom had even recently announced at the time the cancellation of the third Mega Man Legends game. Fans were very unhappy with Capcom, so they saw this as an opportunity to support their Rockstar dev, give him back control of the Mega Man spirit, and flip the bird to Capcom all in one fell swoop. They thought they were getting an industry quality game with the passion and spirit of an indie project. Unfortunately, Keiji was never that invested. With all the stretch goals funded, that meant the game was not only coming out, but that it was coming out to every system under the sun. Mac, Linux, PS3, Xbox 360, Wii U, PS Vita, PS4, Xbox One, and the 3DS. We'd be getting so much additional content too, like voice acting, extra bosses, co-op mode, Ray mode, and even versus multiplayer. This was going to be the Mega Man, to beat all Mega Man. Mighty Number 9 and its $4 million budget was going to bring back this classic and in a huge new way. Then came the delays. That's fine. It takes a long time to make a game, and clearly the scope of the game had increased significantly due to the funding. Capcom releases their games on multiple platforms, but they've never released on 10 platforms simultaneously. Uh-oh, this might be a problem. Then he asked for more money, not once, but 3 different times. Turns out, voice acting and several aspects of the game had their costs miscalculated. They did have a trailer available for us called Masterclass, and it sucked. Even the developers of Mighty Number 9, Inti Creates, hated that trailer. They had no idea that it was coming out or that it was going to be like that. That's also when people noticed that the trailer was posted by Deep Silver. Deep Silver is a publisher. This wasn't the big indie project that we thought it was anymore. Since they're accepting money from a publisher, they had to do what the publisher told them to. The trailer was a big nothing. It talked about dashing, which isn't anything new in Mega Man. The narration was cringe, and it was trying way too hard to be funny and cool. You've all heard it.
And make the bad guys cry like an anime fan on prom night.
Copium huffing was in full effect. You could hear the tanks from planets away. More funding is good. It's just a bad trailer. It'll be fine. Then, before the game was even finished, they tried to pitch another game. This one was called Red Ash, the Indelible Legend, a new game that was capitalizing on the cancellation of Mega Man Legends 3. It didn't go over well with fans. They were pitching a new game and they hadn't even finished Mighty yet. This wasn't even a continuation of the Mighty Number 9 universe. It was an entirely different set of characters. People still didn't know that Concept was a pitching company. While Mighty wasn't done yet, they had long since finished their part of the deal. Technically, Concept wasn't doing anything wrong. Their job was done. But this was a clear sign that Keiji wasn't putting his whole ass into Mighty, and by extension, Red Ash. Red Ash didn't make the funding, and they continued to work on it regardless. But Concept was bought by Level 5 and later dissolved. Red Ash the Indelible Legend just became Red Ash the Delible. Once Mighty released, there were more issues. An unplayable Wii U version. Oh no, that's the one I'm playing first. 360 version delayed. Non-functioning Ray DLC. Physical rewards were late. The physical rewards only having been sent out by Level 5, creators of games like Ni no Kuni, after buying out Concept in their worst business decision ever. In turn, they also inherited their debt and made sure that the goods were delivered to the owners. The rewards themselves weren't perfect though. The NES style manual didn't fit in the NES style box, and as you now know, PS Vita and 3DS were cancelled just earlier this year. Even though on numerous occasions, the porting team said that they hadn't even started and should have been cancelled years ago. Did Mighty Mighty Number 9 make back what it costs. Even with a launch across 8 major consoles, they made less than $3 million, and it might have actually cost more than the $4 million that they had previously thought it was. That's the history though. They promised more than they could deliver and had to keep making bad decisions to fix it. KG has since taken claim for everything that went wrong, and it was recently revealed that KG had left Concept shortly after it was bought. Ironically, Inti Creates, the dev for Mighty, have gone on to make some really good games and have resurrected Mega Man with their own series, Azure Striker Gunvolt, which came out before Mighty Number 9, so maybe that was part of the delay. That in part may have boosted people's confidence in Mighty as well, thinking that it was going to be better than it was. But had they waited to do Azure Striker until after they were done with Mighty, I don't think it would have ever been made. Thankfully, Gunvolt is positively received, with all of their games receiving higher than 80% on Steam. So let's take a look at the final product, the Mighty Number 9 that we were promised. This is Mighty Number 9 on the Wii U. I'm telling you right now that the Wii U version is a game that is in an unplayable state. I'll still show it to you, but I need to tell you something now. I like Mighty Number 9. I don't care if you don't like it, and I won't try to convince you, but for you to have any chance of enjoying it, you need to go in with no expectations. Ignore the history and the controversies and the scams. KG and Inafune scammed everyone. Not the developers, not Inti Creates. They did the best they could with what they were given. Go into this like you didn't hear the history that I just talked about. Pretend that you haven't heard that this was garbage. Mighty Wii U barely walks, let alone runs. The game sees peaks of 50 FPS in rare cases, with the majority of the game running at 30 FPS, and at its worst, a countable frame rate. I won't force you to watch all of the gameplay at this horrible, terrible frame rate. Just know that it gives me headaches and motion sickness. It's that bad. Anyway, Wii U Beck is our leader, and he is voiced by Yuri Lowenthal. For those bad with names, or anime haters in general, Yuri Lowenthal is one of the most well-known anime actors out there. He's Sasuke. He's the anime voice actor guy. He's also Spider-Man nowadays, so it's good to know that he recovered. As you might remember, the budget went heavily into voice acting, so you're gonna hear a lot of well-known anime actors. So basically the story is what you'd expect from Mega Man. You're Beck, and you're made by Dr. White, and he made the other Mighty Number 9. Something has caused them to go haywire, and now they're running amok. In the beginning, Mighty tries to show you that it's not just another Mega Man game. The first enemy you encounter changes color after a few buster shots and shows off some cuboid particle effects. You just destabilize the enemy. When you press right bumper, you dash into the enemy, absorbing them, and get rewarded with a point boost. This is how Mighty plays. Of course, you can still blaster your way through the game, but this takes longer than dashing at them. So the game revolves around this mechanic of quickly destabilizing and absorbing enemies. The quicker you do it, the higher the absorb percentage and the more points you receive. If you get multiple in a row with 100%, you'll get a combo going, and this results in a point bonus on the end screen. There are rewards for doing this beyond just the points though. Dashing through green, yellow, and red enemies give a corresponding buff that increase your speed, defense, and damage temporarily. Some enemies will even give you a health pack. The only downside to this mechanic for me is that you can dash infinitely. You might think, what's stopping you from flying through the stages like Kirby? At first, nothing. But there are lots of enemies as you go on. Right now, the dash might seem like a little too much. If you don't like the dash though, it's half the game. Drop the game immediately if you want, but I gave it some time to cook and it's not that bad. Platforming in the city is pretty linear and straightforward, which will be a running theme. You will never get lost in these stages, and there is no secrets besides the occasional 1-up or health pack. Mega Man isn't an exploration game, and neither is Mighty, so it doesn't take long to run into your first boss. It's a 4-legged digging robot. Damn digging robots, taking mole jobs. Anyway, the digging robot has a very simple moveset. It'll dash at you at first, you need to jump and dash over, then it'll summon falling explosive drones. Dash away or blow them up. Lastly, it'll shoot the ceiling with water jets, and rocks will fall from the ceiling. Stay on the ground floor and watch for the dust. Now, if you don't like the dash mechanic, you're really not going to like what you just saw. Bosses get destabilized, and you need to dash into them too. You can't defeat bosses without dashing into them. If you ignore dashing, they will regenerate their health over time, and dashing locks in the damage dealt, making it permanent. This isn't that big of a deal because it comes with benefits. Bosses are easily staggered by it. So on the other Cheeto dust covered paw, evasive bosses may elude you long enough to restore health. You just can't get away with spamming and exploiting in Mighty. You have to play aggressively. This might suck to hear, but to me, this is a dev team that is very aware of how Mega Man players play. You get the type advantage, and then you spam it for double damage. You need to be on your toes, top of your game, and find openings to maximize damage. After defeating your first boss, you return to the hideout and meet Dr. Sanda and Call. well. I personally love the designs in this game, and next to the voice acting, it's the best part of the game. It 100% has a vibe to it. Beck is cool, Call is cute, and if I ever become a robot, I'm stealing so many designs from this. Don't expect that anytime soon, I just became a mole. The box art looks so cool, and Sonda reminds me of the Astro Boy art style. Dr. White definitely exists. Aesthetically, this game hits. After introductions from the cast, you learn about the haywire robots, and Beck has the entire world thrust on his shoulders. Dr. White tasks him with defeating the Mighty Eight. You'll find out about the ninth one later. Beck is nervous, but White ensures him that he can do it, and they all believe in him, which might be a cool scene had it not looked like someone microwaved my Wii U. From here, we are given total free choice, free reign. We can take on any of the 8 in any order that we want. For those unfamiliar with boss selection in Mega Man, every boss gives Mega a new weapon, and that weapon has Pokemon type advantage against another boss. So players will typically target the boss that they think is the easiest, and that has the easiest stage too, then take down the Master Bots in that order. This means that technically, every stage and boss is designed with the idea that they could be your first real boss fight. Mighty number 9 is no different. I went in numerical order, which for Mighty is the worst order that you could go in. Mighty number 1, codename Pyrogen. Close range fighter, robot, proficient in melee combat. Possesses flame generation abilities and can self-detonate. Hot-headed, hot-tempered, passionate, and explosive. Sounds like this one's gonna be lit. Hey, if Masterclass can have a cringy narrator, this can have a cringy narrator too. I started playing the Wii U version of Mighty number 9 while I was sick, so I had a pretty rough time with this. The low frame rate, one of the worst performing stages, lack of abilities needed for finishing the stage, it all didn't mix well with whatever the hell I brought back with me from the State Fair. This stage is very easy though. Most of them are once you know what to look out for. So when you play Mighty, think of your first couple of lives as experimentation. Focus on learning the stage, go slow, then if you have a game over, try it again and see how much of a difference it makes. For me, the second run felt like the planets aligned, all my chakra gates were open, and my third eye could finally see. The difference between your first run is like a baby learning to walk, then your second is like seeing a grown man sprint. It's night and day. This game is at its absolute best when you know what you're doing already. It feels like you're actually playing the game the way it was intended to be played. Now that said, this is one of the worst stages to play first. On the Wii U side, there is a ton of destruction mechanics and particle effects. It just doesn't run well. On the mechanical side, there's a lot of issues as well. I think labeling this stage as number 1 is a tremendous mistake. People unfamiliar with Mega Man won't know about boss order, and they'll assume they should do it in numerical order. But the oil field has numerous one-hit kills. If you play this stage first, it will turn you off of the entire game. And that's not even talking about the electrical traps, oil all over that can be ignited, and oil towers that will fall down at a moment's notice, crushing you. Meanwhile, you have to jump over death pits and avoid getting hit from falling fireballs that will knock you out of the air. This is a stage that shouldn't be attempted without its weakness. Reselection, Aviator. From now on, I'll just be referring to the forms by the name of the boss that they come from or what they do, because Reselection is a stupid name. So yeah, you need Propeller to get through this stage, at least with your sanity intact. When you get to the boss, you might recognize his voice actor.
Pyro crash, and you burn!
It's Matt Mercer. Yes, the Matt Mercer, the voice of Cassidy and Majima, another big-time voice actor. You're probably getting a pretty clear picture of why the 4 million wasn't enough. He also did voices in Naruto like Yuri Lowenthal did. As the boss, Pyrogen really only does one thing. He lights himself on fire and runs at you. Florida man personified. First he'll shout a catchphrase, and that phrase is a hint as to what he'll do next once he gets in range of Beck. He'll either do a belly flop with a big splash, stop and explode, or keep running past you. This is one of the few bosses that really lets you hammer on him with his weakness. If you're struggling though, enable 9 lives mode in the title menu under general options. I think it's general options. There's 2 option menus, and after a few deaths you'll get support from the helper bots. I call these pities. As you die, they'll give you stuff like the absorption bonuses like red buff, green, yellow, or health packs. You can use the health pack with the select button if you don't want to have to open up your menu to use it each time. Most of the time, the RGY buffs, red, green, yellow, won't help you beyond that first boss phase. The majority of the boss will have a tactics change at half health. Your buff will usually wear off by that point, but the bots give health packs and 1-ups, and that's usually enough to brute force the bosses. Speaking of tactics changes, when Pyro gets to half health, he'll unlock an insta-kill move. While Matt is covered in blue flames, do not touch him. Not only is there contact damage in this game, but blue fire means he will grab you and explode, killing you even with full health. There isn't anything more that I can give you in the way of tips either, because this is his entire thing, run at you and explode. You can totally beat him with just a buster, but using propeller is much faster and safer, but I'll go into detail about that when we move to the Steam version. I ended up giving up on the pyro fight here. I could just tell something was missing and I wasn't willing to fight with the frame rate and Matt Mercer, so I looked up a recommended boss order and went for Battalion next instead. Mighty number 5, codename Battalion. Base capturing robot specialized in mid to long range bombardment. Utilizes a Gatling gun for crowd control and a head-mounted revolver for bombardment. Demonstrates high faculty for tactics and strategic planning. Oh, he's got plans in store for us, and it's mostly just turning us into Swiss cheese. I found this recommended boss order in the community's guide page on Steam. I don't recommend this order if you're new to games like this. In terms of just the stages, this is probably the easiest one. You really don't need any tips, and it's the simplest intentionally. Fighting Bat is easy if you're familiar with how he functions and if you have some good practice with the controls. Maybe I struggled with this because it was the Wii U still, but Bat is pretty good about zone denial. Basically, his attacks are super easy to avoid, but if you aren't aware of how the dash works and the crouch or drop dash, then you might have some issues. If you're new, go into stage select, tab over to call, and click general options. There are lots of tricks that this game doesn't tell you in the tutorial. Crouch and drop dash is just a couple of these. So Bat's attacks are all line attacks. His most commonly used one involves him standing still, firing a burst directly at you, then 2 more bursts at an upward angle. You can dodge the first one by doing a well-timed full-length dash away from him. If you tap dash too much, you can do partial dashes, so make sure you do full-length dash, hold it down, wait for it to end. If he has you against the wall though, you will almost always be hit by the second volley. His next attack involves jumping into the air, then he does a single burst done in a 45-degree angle sweep. That was like 30-degree. I don't know. They didn't teach me math in the dirt. Either dodge toward him when he jumps and slip underneath, or get a lot of distance and just jump over it. He has one more regular move, and that's to fire a line of homing rockets. Sort of. He'll fire them in a line towards you, then you'll jump over and dash towards them, and the rockets will zoom upwards. You fight Bat by getting in his face, and this is challenging for a new player as it requires a level of confidence with the controls that a new player probably doesn't have. Bat's final move happens when he's brought to half health, and he might repeat it if you take too long to defeat him. He'll stop, turn into a turret, and charge up a single shot. Wait for him to shout fire and jump. If you don't, you are dead. But you have more to worry about if you avoid it. It's now lodged in the wall, and surprise, it's not a bullet, it's a bomb. The safest place is on the opposite side of the screen. You need to get up in his teeth, practically crawl into his anus, and make it your home. Like, set up a bed, start cooking some food, you're gonna be there for a while. And this aspect of the fight is not good for new players. Blast away. Do not let up. Do not let him breathe without your permission. If you do, he will detonate the bomb and it covers 3/4 or more of the area. He's easy if you know what you're doing and you're confident with the controls, but a new player probably isn't. This win means getting Bat's revolver attack. This is a super useful move because it hurts enemies who stay still a lot. You fire, the bullet gets lodged, and then you can detonate it whenever you want. This might not seem huge, but it's used well into the very end of the game. The final boss, shortcuts, remote switch activation, and it doesn't have a max range like the Buster. It is incredibly reliable. As you can see though, the boss fights in this game are pretty good. Mighty number 4, codename Seismic. He's a big boy with big drills. He loves to dig. You know what? Same bestie. He's large and in charge, being a heavy-duty robot proficient in military engineering. He uses his big drills to break through the terrain and demolish man-made structures. But enough yapping. Let's dig in. The stage here kinda sucks for a new player. There are a few death pits where if you don't time your dash, you die. You really can't do anything about it with this play order because you don't have a propeller to make it easier. If it's your first playthrough, I really recommend playing with 9 lives just because it lets you explore, and if you die, it won't set you too far back. Unless it's the Wii U, in which case enjoy minute-long load times. Just fall down the pits, watch for context clues, and dash at the right time. The rest of the stage is pretty darn easy. You'll see large drilling machines going to and fro on the map. That's most of what you're avoiding after that first death drop area. You'll need to jump out and go from cover to cover until you find the big hole at the bottom. It's easy, you can do it no problem without getting hit, but you kind of have to do it hitless because the drills are one-shot kills. I assume. I never got hit. Once you get down, you get to see one of the coolest parts of the game. And this pops up a lot, so it's super neat. The boss who gives you the advantage weapon also joins the stage and helps get rid of some of the more difficult obstacles. It's really cool seeing Bat come in, show off, say a few quips, and move on. It really makes me feel good because it's rewarding me for playing the game the way they intended. Once you drop down from here though, you have one more big drop. So you remember the big drills, right? Of course you do, I just mentioned it. Well, where there is a big drill, there's a bigger drill. Watch out, because size does matter here. This works like your standard chase sequence. You get a little puzzle platforming, and for the most part it's easy unless, say it with me, unless you're on the Wii U. This section is unplayable. It lags at random and to such a high degree that it feels impossible to get past. I could probably do it now, but little noob me from last week just could not. You've seen a little bit of it already, I showed you a couple of times now, so you probably understand why I switched to the Steam version after this. Wii U Mighty is pretty much unplayable. And if you beat this, then you should look up BDSM, because I think it's right up your alley. So why does it play like this? I have a few theories. 1. The obvious, poorly optimized. The team was not prepared to do this many ports, some of them were going to be lacking. 2. Way too many particle effects and too much destruction. That can slow down any game. 3. Trying to get Unreal Engine on the Wii U to work. The Wii U just wasn't powerful enough to support UE4, so I doubt it could just barely run UE3. And then 4. The game runs simultaneously on 2 screens at once. Yes, you heard me right. Mighty number 9 Wii U isn't running on just one screen. It's simultaneously running on the TV and on the gamepad, and there isn't an option to turn it off. This isn't a problem for a computer, but the Wii U was weak hardware. Most games on the Wii U left the screen blank or put a logo or a map or something there. It was rarely showing the same game twice. But the Mighty team must have been very unfamiliar with this technology, so rather than having a screen toggle, they decided to run the game on both screens. This is just a little sign of their inexperience showing. Then again, no one was super experienced with developing for the Wii U. That's mostly Nintendo's fault. They didn't put out enough dev kits, which is looking to be something that they're struggling with the Switch 2 as well. As for the Steam version, the game doesn't look much better in terms of graphical quality, but it does run significantly better. From here out, the only frame issues are random rare drops from Beck's dash colliding with an enemy when multiple are on screen. Particle effect issues. Either way, the game is much easier now that the game isn't lagging as much. Platforming and the stages themselves are much better now too. You have no idea how relieving it is to fail because you suck, and not because the game is running poorly. Picking up where we left off on the Wii U, Bat continues to help us through the stage and give us some shortcuts. Bat is 100% a bro. We love us a military-industrial complex king. The stage is actually pretty short with Bat's help, but I wonder how much longer it would have been had I not had his help. This final roadblock being cleared puts you straight into Seismic's arena. Seismic has simple and very linear attack patterns, but it is also one of the bosses that are easily spammed to death by advantage weapons. At the start, he'll charge at you slowly. Use Bat's revolver to fire a charge into Seismic, then jump over him and wait for him to reach the end of the arena. Once there, detonate the charge. Bat's blast is sizable, but it can be walked out of, and that'll reduce the damage. After a bit, Size Queen will drop some boxes from above, and you'll use this terrain as cover, and it will also get in your way. If you haven't figured it out at this point, boxes landing on you hurt, so don't try to catch them with your face. At the halfway point, he starts to use his drill arms a little bit more seriously. He'll shoot them at you, and they'll slowly track before firing in a line. Use this against him to get him to either shoot above you so you can hang out on the ground floor and shoot him, or have him aim on the ground floor, then you hang on the arena edges to avoid them. Touching just the cords can deal damage. The biggest tip for using Bat's gun is that you can detonate it in midair, so it's possible to accidentally have a premature explosion, but it's okay. I heard it happens to a lot of guys. Just be careful not to spam when using Bat. Overall, Seismic is slow and easy. He can shoot his drills around the same time he's destabilized, and you can dash to interrupt his drills and remove them. I played like garbage and still beat him the third try. Of course, weapon advantage, improved frame rate, and pity boosts definitely helped. Our reward is the expected tank mode, but no new story. Tank mode sucks, to put it nicely. You lose your shot attacks, and holding your attack makes you charge into enemies. You can do it in midair or on the ground, but it can leave you vulnerable and collision damage is a thing. I'd say it's not worth the risk as it can put you in bad spots, and it's never needed for platforming. Honestly, I don't see this game benefiting from having collision damage at all. I can understand like older games or whatever, but like, I don't know. I feel like collision damage doesn't really add anything. Taking damage just because a dude exists, well, why don't they take damage from me existing. Mighty number 7, codename Brandish. As we all know, tank beats sword, so the next boss is Brandish, an assault robot proficient in hit-and-run tactics. He uses ultra-sharp scissor blades capable of cutting any substance, except tanks, I guess. He seems like he'd be a real cut-up. Unfortunately, he's more edgy than anything. Most stages are pretty light on story when you start them up, usually just a couple of lines of dialogue apiece, just a summary of the environment craziness and how the Mighty of choice is likely involved or questioning why they're involved. Brandish meets us from the very beginning here, suggesting a closer connection with Beck than the others. He's also the first boss I encountered with a design that I actually like. It's like a mix of Knight with Ninja, and the scissor blades are a cool callback to Cutman. That or someone on the team just really like Kill la Kill. At this point, I haven't talked about form swapping, as I've only had base form and one other. So swapping thus far has been just pressing the top face button, Y or X or triangle depending on your controller. Just know when I say top button, I'm talking about that button. Once you get an additional one, the swapping becomes a lot harder to do under pressure. Swapping forms requires you to tap either L1 or L2 to cycle between forms. I didn't know this until the end of the game, but you can go into the options and hotkey up to 3 forms, then set another form as what you're hovered on. This lets you map a form to L3, R3, and right on the face buttons. Time for some nitpicking. I think they should have mapped movement to only the left stick or only the D-pad, then map the other as hotkeys. This would have let you have 4 hotkeys, then whatever you're hovered on for 5. Even better would be a quick select wheel like Ratchet and Clank. Hold L1, the game slows down for a few seconds while you pick your form. Quick select wheels like this have been around since the PS2, and it surprises me how little they're utilized in games these days. It's great for people on controllers and console and stuff like that because they don't have as many keys that they can map like a PC player. So having a quick select wheel isn't only just convenient for them, it's convenient for PC players too because they don't have to use as many buttons. They also could have just added the Final Fantasy XIV crossbar, which would have sucked a bit, but it still would have been usable. Hold L1, then press D-pad down, up, left, or right for forms 1 through 4, then hold L2 for forms 5 through 8, then Y to revert back to basic Beck. All of these options would be better than L1, L2 cycling. Now, with Brand Stage, it's played on a zooming highway where if we hit the street, it's an insta-kill. But if you've adopted the strategy of flying through the stage with dashing, then you'll find that they have a hard counter for that here. There are flying enemies in addition to billboard bots who will interrupt your zoomies. It's still a fast-paced stage, but taking it a little slower is probably for the best. This gimmick does get made a little bit harder later since Brandish comes in and starts slicing up cars. He'll mark zones with slice indicators, then proceed to commit multiple counts of murder in front of us. I'm sorry, Brandy. I don't think fixing your programming is going to be enough to get you into robot heaven after this one. Once we encounter him in the arena, Brandish tells us that we can't save him. We have to destroy him.
I can't control myself. If you want to save me, you must destroy me.
So get the loot, Brandy. Destroying is what I do best. Brand does a bunch of ninja stuff, and he does verbal callouts for all of his attacks like the other Mighty do. At first, he'll occasionally reflect your shots while saying, "Huh, predictable," like the edgy little turd he is. Then he enters an enhanced state. When he's going super sicko mode, don't try to hit him as the shots will bounce. You can't hit him until he's in the infected form fully, but once in this form, he will then jump and Sonic the Hedgehog around the screen. When he's positioned above you, he'll then slam down. Lastly, when you get him to half health, he does that Virgil thing. For the most damage possible, you might think it might be best to use the tank and hit him like a truck. The damage bonus isn't even enough that I would consider it worth the risk of being hit by him. Using the Buster is the best weapon for this since you can keep a safe distance and still do a lot of damage. I think the speed of the Buster makes up for the slowness of the tank, evening out the DPS. If you do the tank, don't hit him while he's powering up or not powered up since he can deflect in these forms. Buster's still probably the best, so you could fight off-brand first. He doesn't sit still long enough to take much damage from the majority of weapons, and tank can feel too risky, but defeating Brandy gives us our next ability and a bit of story this time. Turns out the reason Call wasn't affected was because she was shut down for a firmware update. Since any bots that were shut down weren't affected, it may have to do with whatever service is connecting all these bots together. Luckily for us, firmware changes can take hours. Dr. White has an idea for what might be causing the issue as well, but he chooses to keep this very important info on a contemplative cliffhanger. Fun. Brand's ability is excellent, one of the best, and probably the most useful. You will end up using this in the final boss fight too. I hotkeyed this one to right stick click. Brand's Buster Shot is replaced with a quick sword swipe, and if you charge it, you'll turn into a Beyblade. I never used it for the Beyblade, but there are lots of short enemies on Dinah's stage, the next stage, and on Cryo's stage, and in the finales, so it gets a lot of use. It's also just really strong. Mighty number 3, codename Dinatron. Dinah is a wide area tactical robot proficient in electronic warfare. She can short circuit or take over enemy robots through electrical discharge or lightning strikes through remote controlled lightning rods. Looks like she brought the shock, so we get to bring the awe. Interestingly, Dinatron is a girl robot, just like Call. This is sort of unique, because in the core Mega Man series, there was only one girl boss robot, Splash Woman. What's kind of messed up is she took twice as much damage from Mega Man's Buster, implying that she's weaker than the other Master Bots, just on the merits of being a female Master Bot. The first female Master Bot, and the first Master Bot to be a victim of misogyny. Get it, girly? But since all the other Master Bots are male, some people think Splash Woman isn't just female representation, but trans female representation. We do encounter other female Mighty like Cryo and Trinity, more on them in their own section. She's aesthetically way more interesting than Splash Woman. I love her design. You might be familiar with these drums around her. She's based on Raijin. Raijin is the god of thunder in Shinto and Buddhism. Raijin would bang on these drums and it would summon thunder and lightning. Then the use of Tesla coils, sharp angular design, sharp teeth, and jagged yellow patterns makes for a really shocking appearance in her design. In her original concept, her stomach is even a light bulb. It's just so boss bitch, and her gremlin behavior makes me feel ways that I can't describe if I plan to put ads on this in the future. Damn it, that was almost normal. The main gimmick for this stage is rolling blackouts. Thankfully, it never gets darker than just mood lighting, so it's plenty visible, which is great because there isn't a light bright form for Beck. The only other gimmick is the turbine section. These are large spinning fans that Beck has to avoid. Sonda says that they'll suck you in, and I know a lot about sucking, and these don't suck. They just kill you outright. The only part where they're annoying to avoid is a small section at the end where you need to crouch dash to get past 2 of them, and you have to do it in exactly 1 crouch dash a piece. At this point, I still hadn't read anything from the tips section. I didn't know there was one. The only tutorial you get in the beginning, and then here when it says, try crouch dashing, moron. The little gaps you've seen around, I just normal dashed through those. Or maybe I accidentally crouch dashed and didn't realize it. You only hear about the fabled crouch dash through this warning and in the second options menu. Getting into a forced combat room lets us hear Dinah for the first time.
So it's you! You've come for my power? You want to take it from me? Well, we'll just see about that!
I have to lock in. Dinah is a pretty easy fight. She launches her drums and they stick into the environment. Later she'll use them to send arcs of electricity. They can be destroyed with Cut, and she takes a ton of damage from Cut as well. But if you can't avoid a drum, they'll stick into you, and if you don't shake them off by mashing the buttons and wiggling the sticks, she'll shock you, and it will hurt a lot. On top of this, she can move while discharging electricity, making it harder to avoid her lightning. During the last half, she'll start generating a shield with her drums, and you only need to damage the drums around her to get through. She was easy. I was hoping to get roughed up a little bit. With Cut, she's a breeze. Without it, I can see it being a little bit more difficult, but that's how these are supposed to go. You use the right tool for the right job, and the game gets easy. We get Dinah's move and become a unicorn, but no new story. Dinah's attack works the same way for you as it does for her. You disperse drums in a cone, and once lodged in, and you're close enough, it'll shock the enemies. This has the opportunity to do large amounts of damage, and it increases the distance that you can dash finish, as if you needed it to be bigger. Overall, this isn't a very useful weapon. Even against her best matchup, it's better to use the sword or the buster. I think they should have given us an electric shield, as there are no shield weapons in this game, like there are in many Mega Man titles. Mighty number 8, Countershade. Next boss is Mighty number 8, codename Kids Next Door. You're lucky I held it back this long. Countershade is a logistical support robot specialized in sniping, utilizes espionage tactics through optical camouflage, and an ultra-long-range shooting ability through a high-fidelity radar and sniper rifle. Sure, I know these words. Some of them, at least. Oh, right, I'm supposed to do a pun. He might be able to turn invisible, but he won't see this wind coming. Interesting aesthetic. He has a rice farmer's hat, a goatee, a sniper, and a cloak obscuring his right arm. I like the little dart in his mouth instead of a cigarette. I'm going to make him choke on it. By it, I mean his dart. This stage starts us off with a phrase that might result in this video never ever getting monetized once I get monetization. There is a sniper in the White House, and we are looking for him. You don't have to look too hard. This stage has one gimmick. We go left or right and try to find Countershade and hit him. Going down either path long enough results in taking the loop around to the other side. This stage is incredibly straightforward with no platforming. So you see the laser sights, follow it. When the sight appears, he will fire 3 bursts of 3 shots, and they will ricochet off the environment. Just pay attention to the pathing of the laser sensor and stay away from the balls. The balls work like John Gollier's stand Manhattan transfer. If a ball sees you, the shot will hit the ball and take the shortest distance to you. Just make sure to take advantage of the plentiful cover. When you encounter him for the first time, you get to hear his voice.
Every single one of those meat sticks fled at the first sign of trouble.
Is that Steve Blum? Oh my god, that's Steve Blum. I almost didn't recognize him through that filter. And just like that, I have a weird thing for Countershade too. I'm an equal opportunity weirdo. Steve Blum is awesome. He voices a ton of characters in anime. He is just as well known as Yuri Lowenthal is. He plays Spike Spiegel from Cowboy Bebop, Orochimaru and Zabuza, for you Naruto heads out there, and a ton of Wolverine in cartoons and games. Again, this is why they were having budget problems. They shot for the stars and landed in the dumpster. It's okay though, most of these actors have had bad roles before, but no one remembers you for the bad roles. They remember you as Spike fucking Spiegel. As is common of Blum's style, he has a rough and gruff, tough, and masculine voice, a perfect fit for any Wild West themed character, or any dude in his 30s to 50s that you want your audience to have an unhealthy obsession with. This cast is crazy though. Matt Mercer, Yuri Lowenthal, Steve Blum, and Dave Wittenberg. Dave plays Kakashi from Naruto, and Lang Wrangler from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Stone Ocean. Keiji Inafune really just said, get Naruto on the phone, homie owes me one. Shade was definitely given some very interesting voice lines. He degrades me, calls me a meat bag, demands there be a robot president, calls me little doggy a bunch.
Little doggy.
And keeps calling me a good boy. Aside from the robot president part, it all sounds a little horny coming from Blum's voice as it enters my demented, dirty little brain. It's dirty because of all the actual dirt in it. While lines like this make sense for the character, you only need to spend 5 seconds on the internet to know that people aren't going to be normal about being called a dog and good boy. Should you find any of his innuendo-laden dialogue too distracting to get your hits in, you can always track him down and get the damage you need done elsewhere. For the boss fight itself, Shade will randomly teleport around this very small arena. He can be anywhere and he can spawn on top of you. Once spawned, he will line up a shot and shoot. I suggest using Brand's weapon and just using slash a bunch. It's not going to give you type advantage, but the speed of the slashes and the damage makes up for it. After a bit, he'll throw a bunch of Manhattan transfers and ricochet the shot off them. You can easily interrupt this with enough damage. Buster is also super good in this fight. Eventually, he sets Manhattan transfer to Wumbo and fires a ton of large shots. Don't worry about the shots in the foreground. Just keep running around the map in a big circle until he stops. Lastly, Shadow Clone. The fake one glitches a bit, but the real one is solid. Hit that one. Most importantly, avoid getting shot. It can reverse your control scheme. The most challenging part of this is getting called a dog and good boy. Overall, this boss is incredibly easy, and that's why the dialogue is meant to sexually confuse you. He isn't hard enough in the game, so he meta games by breaking the rules of the game itself to affect the player, like how he'll use the foreground and background to bounce shots. But if you're immune to his voice and lines, I don't know, go see the CDC, get that vaccine made, because I don't know many people who can resist, Steve Blum's voice. But I think you can handle this boss as your first boss. The Buster deals plenty of damage and is probably the best weapon for this fight, as Shade sits in multiple locations where you can easily shoot him from and he stays still. His moves are incredibly telegraphed and the Wumbo move is easy to avoid. This should really be your first boss. After dusting Steve Blum, we get a discount version of his sniper and a cutscene. Mostly just what you already know. Don't trust a billionaire. He's pretty much just blowing up because people can see through his Dr. Blackwell scapegoat and he's being held accountable. Billionaires hate being held accountable. Also, that's how you know this is fiction. There's no way a billionaire would be held accountable in America. So your sniper rifle ability. It can ricochet off the environment and enemies to other nearby enemies. This shot can also be fired downwards by using the backshot jump, which is right trigger and attack. It'll fire downwards and bounce upwards. But since you aren't rootin' tootin' and by God be shootin' mighty number 8, you can't fire the full 3 burst volley. Any shots after the second replace the oldest shot. This weapon is mandatory for the next boss fight. But outside of that, the cost is way too high to be useful, and it's used once for a single button at the end of the game. Mighty number 6, Aviator. The next boss is less hot, unless you have a thing for planes. Not me though. I like to keep all 4 of my feet firmly on the ground. He's a highly mobile robot proficient in reconnaissance and mid-air combat. I don't know what the medieval themed fair has to do with this, but I love a good joust. Avi also possesses unique deformation mechanisms and demonstrates superior adaptability both on the ground and in the air, so he's a transformer. Steve Blum could have played him too. He was Starscream. It's probably the best that he didn't play too many roles though.
Little doggy, 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 doggy.
I might need a therapist. The gimmick for this one is platforming, while affected by the wind. At first, the platforming is minimal. We get a cool mini-boss sequence with airships, then the real platforming begins. We'll have to deal with getting pushed, pulled, and worst of all, having to do this while dealing with a platforming challenge that would have been a challenge on its own. We have to platform while stories above the ground with no platforms below us. If we fall, we die. As an added bonus, even if you make it past this sequence and you die, you'll be put back just before it. I found the platforming portion easy, but die a couple of times to the stuff that succeeded it, which kept forcing me back to before the platforming. Up until this point, checkpoints have been very generous, so it's easy to notice something like this as being very deliberate. They were rage baiting me. After the wind platforming, we get to the boss, and I would not let him hit for being goofy. It's super weird how this turned into a video about my preferences for robot characters, but Abby's design is just a pretty basic robot playing thing, and his personality is an annoying news anchor who thinks he's funnier than he is. But he only thinks he is funny because his coworkers laugh to be polite, because if they didn't, it'd be more awkward to work with him. This arena is the first one to combine platforming challenges with a fight. There are 2 raised platforms and a central lower platform. On either side of the lower screen is a light gust. It is not strong enough to keep you aloft, so you need to use the 2 upper platforms to hit Avi when he makes himself vulnerable with his attacks. Avi's first attack is his biggest window. He and his little drone will swoop down and go from one side to the other side of the screen and won't attack. You can stand on the platform opposite of him and get to blasting, but I suggest using Sniper as drone is level with his shot. It will bounce off the drone and into Avi. This is how we fight him for the most part. Whenever he returns from an attack, he will sit still with his drone out, shoot his drone with Snipe again. Snipe consumes a lot of energy, but there are large swaths of downtime between many of his attacks, so it's not a big issue. Another move is bombing run. He'll carpet bomb one way, you need to pay attention to where the bombs don't fall, stand there to avoid them, but when he doubles back, he'll bomb that spot that you're standing in now, so move to the spot you were in before. He has another move where he will start at the bottom and fire bullets as he moves vertically on the screen, and then again as he moves down. It's a chance to get a free sniper shot, but not a ton of damage. His half health move is just like Shade's wombo attack. He'll move to the background and fire forward. Make laps just like you did with Shade's. Abby is easy with Shade's weapon. Unfortunately, the sniper is also the only thing that will consistently hit him. It's simultaneously your best and only option. It's mostly a battle of survival, patience, and waiting for openings. Once we defeat him, we get one of the most useful abilities in the entire game, and that's Propeller. So all the more reason to go for Shade first. Propeller gives us an enhanced jump ability that lets us fall slowly. This makes the Death Pit falls, oil fields, and several bosses easier to jump past. The attack itself is also incredibly punishing for anything that likes to hide just above buster height, behind objects, or at the edge of boss arenas. The only problem is we have only one propeller. If it's being used to attack, we have to call it back to be able to use it for jumping or to throw it again. I have this one on left stick because it genuinely gets used that much. Pyrogen, but for realsies. It's time for us to move on to Pyrogen. How lucky for him. He gets a second intro. You know the story. It looks like we have a red hot battle coming up, and I hope we get an explosive finish. After this, we have just one more mighty, and well, it's never been that simple in Mega Man. If you've never played a core Mega Man entry, you get to choose one of 8 bosses and fight them in any order like we have here. But after you defeat all of them, you move on to some bonus stages with some additional bosses. This is because these 8 boss fights serve as an extended tutorial, so 66 to 80% of the game is tutorial essentially. Your skills with the ability system aren't put to the test until the final stages because you can fight the main 8 in any order. So they can't put certain mechanics into stages because they have to assume that you could be doing any of these naked. Some stages will put in secrets only accessible with certain abilities, but you'll never see the abilities used entirely for platforming until the end. By then the end is so short that none of the abilities ever get to see full utilization. You'll never get to see these platforming abilities pushed to their limits. This is all true here. Every Mighty 8 can be reached and fought naked. We call that Florida Man style. This stage though is one of the few where having an ability makes it greatly easier, but as you saw on the Wii U portion, you don't technically need it. You can get through it just fine. You've seen me go through this. Just know that the propeller is very useful against the flame spinners and makes platforming across the gaps and lit fields significantly easier. Pyrogen is also one of the few bosses that can be spammed with their weakness and it be super effective. Pyrogen, no matter where he is, will end up getting messed up by a propeller, and it's because propeller is actually good. It makes combat a breeze. I already told you what you need to know. Basically, Dr. White created another robot like Beck. They must have gone rogue or had been reactivated. Now they're using Dr. White's code to infect and force the other Mighty to work for them. We have just one more Mighty to go, and then it's the finale. Pyrogen's attack is kind of a weird one. You lose your Buster Shot, and now you have to hold down attack. As you do, it'll build a meter to 3 charge levels below Beck. Each charge level will increase the blast radius and damage, but if you let it stay at 3 too long, you'll have a premature detonation and become very vulnerable as you'll need to recover. This attack, even with just tapping, has a large radius and does quite a bit of damage, but it's not as useful as you have to avoid being hit as it builds, and spamming means getting very, very close. Aside from a couple of bosses who are made with you having this move in mind, it's not a good ability to run around with. I use it in the next boss fight and the final boss fight. Mighty number 8, Cryosphere. Cryo is an amphibious robot capable of underwater and below freezing combat. She can manipulate water, use that to generate ice through her cooling. She looks like she'll be a chilling foe. This is our second lady boss robot. Cryo's short height and binky looking mouthpiece suggests that she's a little kid. Don't worry, she still murders like a full-grown serial killer. At first, platforming in this aquatic base is just fine, but there are some underwater segments where the controls can be a bit floaty. There's a part where you're supposed to blind drop for quite a while, so I see why this order is recommended. You can use the prop to stop for a moment and adjust your position and then drop again. This can be very slow, and you might run out of juice if you did this the whole way down. Personally, I found it much easier to dive in and look for context clues in the stage and then just dash to the right. I've seen complaints where people say prop is mandatory here. You fall really slowly. I don't think it's that bad. People want to be able to beat these stages first try. That's not even how it worked back in the Mega Man days. You didn't just beat Mega Man first try every time. No, you took some lives. You did some game overs. I can now do this first try every time now. As we approach Frozone's lair, Dr. White says that Cryo loves pranks. Well, shoot, I like pranks too. I once emptied a roommate's deodorant and replaced it with a stick of butter. He swiped it on and mush all over his armpit hair. I know, that's a little diabolical, even for me. Anyway, this mandatory fight room is interesting, but doesn't pose any challenge with prop. The enemies on the side play ping pong while you repeatedly throw prop at them. The underwater gimmick ended just before this. The rest of this stage is sliding ice, and worst of all, mantling doesn't function with the ice. You cannot ledge grab. There's one section that is technically possible to beat without prop, but it is seriously easier just to save the stage for last, or at least any point after getting Avi's prop. Throughout this stage, we've encountered Cryo a few times. I thought I recognized her voice actor, but no.
You just refuse to chill out, don't you, Runt?
You're half my size.
Sure, it's nothing a little cold shower won't cure.
Does she have a binky? Alright, time to put you down for a dirt nap.
I haven't seen anything Paige King has been in. Paige King should seriously apply for more cartoon gigs like at Nick or Cartoon Network. Her voice is a perfect match for Cryo. She's playful, childish, a little gremlin, and that makes it sting all that much more when she absolutely murders you. Getting taunted on by a fetus is devastating. That's the funny thing about this game though. Say what you want about the rest of the game, the voice acting is perfect. You'd struggle to find better fits for any of these characters. The boss fight is kind of challenging because you have to play it a little different than you normally might. You need to get aggressive and have good timing. Cryo will start by launching into the air with a water jet. This jet doesn't deal damage to you, just avoid it and walk through it if you need to. When the jet widens, she's about to turn it into a tower of ice. Do not be underneath the jet when it widens. You'll be frozen, and shaking off the ice takes ages, essentially giving her a free hit. Once the tower solidifies, you need to break it to bring her to the ground floor. This is your opportunity to hit her. Destroying the ice takes quite a while with the Buster, so you need to use abilities. I think she's probably like the only boss I would say that is like almost impossible with the Buster, just because of how long it takes to do things. Fire is the obvious ability that we should be using. Charge it up, and while she's flying around, and once the ice forms, detonate on the ice, then back up immediately. She'll shoot ice balls towards you, and if you're frozen, she'll turn to ice and body slam you. It hurts. I didn't experiment much with this boss as she is a pain, and my winning shot was pure luck. I was able to get 3 full detonations in a row, entirely skipping her second phase move. It took me, I think, 2 full 9 live game overs before I finally beat her. Her second phase move involves riding her water jet as she wildly sprays an ice thrower at you. It's like a flamethrower, but ice. Pay attention to where it is and wait for the opportunity to dash underneath her. I got incredibly lucky with being able to skip this. Let me be super duper clear when saying this. Cryo is probably the absolute worst boss that you could fight first. The stage is hard, and Cryo is harder. Buster alone takes way too long to delete her ice tower. Now, I previously mentioned that Splash Woman took double damage in Mega Man. Cryo is similar. Her second phase starts at 1/3 HP and attacks big hurt her, but it makes sense for her because she's a little kid and she is hard as hell to hit. If she had the same health as the other Mighty, then I don't think I would have ever beat her. It's possible that she doesn't have less health. It might just be that fire really does that much extra damage. We have a cutscene, and then we get Cryo's cannon. Basically, Graham gives off big billionaire sleazeball lonely divorcee energy, and Santa and White do not dig his vibes and will not be inviting him to the polycule. Graham is clearly hiding something. He's been clearly hiding something for a while. He's blaming Blackwell based on hunches, but allegedly Blackwell was also totally against the first Mighty White design. So did he really do all of this? Why would the robots follow a human master if they're looking for freedom from humans? Something just doesn't add up. But that's a problem for future cutscenes. Cryo's cannon fires ice balls and slows enemy movement. This is useless for the majority of situations except boss fights, as some bosses can be slowed, which is awesome. I think it does about the same damage as the Buster but fires slower. The only situation I would say this ability is useful is if the final boss is too fast for you. Even then, I didn't need ice to beat the final boss. I didn't even hotkey this one. So my final hotkeys were prop, blade, revolver, and then I had fire on hover. I said I didn't hotkey it earlier. And I was right, it wasn't hotkeyed, it is on hover. Finale, part 1. We got 2 stages and it looks like I'm going back to prison. The first time is when I took the Mole King's toothpaste and replaced it with suntan lotion. It was super easy, just a label swap. Mole prisons aren't really anything to worry about though. They tend to stay empty and they don't really know how to punish people down here, so it was kind of just like a second house. Kind of makes you miss prison. The prison stage is cool, at first, because it's a call stage. There are 2 gimmicks to her stage. The first is a stealth mission and the last half is the worst combat ever. The stealth portion involves Call and Sonda trying to reach the maximum security wing to reach Dr. Blackwell. This requires us to search the multiple floors above us for keycards. You find them in boxes and avoid being spotted by Punisher turrets. You cannot hurt them, only deactivate them temporarily. I only learned the names of enemies that were really annoying, because I would look them up, because I wanted to know who I hate by name. Sometimes the boxes would also contain shackle bombs, which move slowly towards you and try to explode. I know the names of those ones because you cannot defeat them normally. You gotta wait for them to set their fuse and then just back up. This section is trying to teach you that Call's weapon sucks. She uses a bow, and it fires a single shot. The weapon is slow and weaker than the Buster. She also can't dash through enemies that she's destabilized. Double the time to kill. Call isn't a combat robot. Maybe this is meant to highlight how cool and awesome Boy Robot is. So it's all the more puzzling when we get a forced combat room in a boss fight. Before I whine about this last half, Call stage is a Kickstarter reward. It's clear that this was made towards the end, and it lacks a lot of polish. The last half involves a forced combat sequence with a lot of robots we've already faced. Then these giant crescent moon ones. The only way to get past these blades is to lay on the ground and wait for them to pass, then get close and blast the eye. This is perfectly fine. I don't mind this. It's creative. It's enjoyable. I was so puzzled at first and I was like, wait, I just lay down. I just hated fighting everything else in this stage without being able to destabilize. It's not fun. They established the destabilize rule and then they just took it all away. After this is some story about how White programmed all of his bots with a sense of restraint. They don't like violence. Paul wasn't built with this same sense of restraint, so I guess Sonda worked around this by making her blow ass at combat. This dialogue portion is good, but it's where I noticed that the mouths weren't moving. It took me this long to realize, and that made me realize just how rushed this was. In many games where crunch becomes a problem, the first thing to go is usually expressions and animations. It's unfortunate, as charm is something that really sells the quality of a game, especially one like this. Despite amazing voice acting, there is very little charm here. After this, there's some light insta-kill platforming where we use Call's jetpack and dash. It's not too bad, but it took a couple of tries because there are enemies that will knock you out of the air. The boss for this area is after the insta-kill platforming and is called K9. K9 is pretty easy to deal with and felt like a good matchup for Call's ability. You only have 2 ways of dealing damage to K9, hitting them in the eye or from the inside. But Vor isn't an option here, and we follow Abby's advice to shoot him in the eye. This deals a bit of damage, then Doggy Style starts to blind fire. The trick for when they blind fire is to walk just up under their nose and lay down or tap the shield button when shots get too close. Call gets a shield. We don't really need it until this boss, which is why I haven't mentioned it. Anyway, Courage, the tin can dog, will start howling and call in a propel lifter, which has a bomb. Push the shackle bomb toward him to make him eat it. After doing this twice, Balto will start to summon only Punisher turrets, and when Jake the dog bot eats them, his vision is restored. You have to keep repeating these cycles until Scooby Scooby-Doo eats his last meal. Unfortunately, aside from heals and extra lives, pities will do nothing to help you, as the majority of damage comes from eating shackle bombs. Even if it did boost the damage, you'd still lose the boost by the time that you can make good use of them. As another sign of running out of time, we get no cutscene at the end, just a slow drift of the elevator, no dialogue. No one was surprised by the giant robotic DOGG, just awkward silence then greeted by a helper bot. This stage was clearly tacked on just to meet that stretch goal requirement, and it sucks. It starts like they genuinely cared about it, then right as the combat starts, it's all downhill. They did call so dirty on this one, and I will not forgive them for that. Finale, Part 2. Good news if you're a fan of the characters, because the gang is all here, and you can hear them gabbing as they fight the good fight on a different front. The stage itself is mostly a test of the abilities that you've acquired and your ability to apply them correctly. Unfortunately, this highlights how annoying the swap buttons are, so hotkey prop, revolver, and blade if you haven't yet, then hover on snipe for this stage. Mostly the stage involves activating buttons and platforms using the tools given to us. Revolver to remote detonate the switches, propeller for better jumps, propeller to hit hidden enemies, and snipe to shoot a single switch behind cover. Later, fire is used to hit multiple switches at once, and then you drop down. Basically, every ability is getting one chance to be used in a quote-unquote puzzle. This is what I mean by the Mega Man format causing more harm than help. I think the Mega Man stage structure is itself flawed, which might upset some Mega Man fans, but I'll get to that at the end. The first mini-boss is a server that summons enemies. You need to shoot the little camera eye that pops out between waves. I suggest standing on the far left side and using the blaster to weaken enemies. After a bit, a shield guy comes out and you can absorb him for penetration shots, which makes clearing the waves easier. Once some little bugs spawn, switch to sword and absorb them for a health pack. These bugs can give a health pack every time, and depending on how long it takes you to win, they can spawn multiple times. This fight is literally free. Next boss is the Dig Dude again, but he has some new tricks, and so do we. I use the Buster, but the prop is good sometimes. Revolver would work here, sword, and Dyna. His new move is now jump on the ceiling, then spray a jet of water from one side to the other, then back. Go to the opposite side from him, and once the jet reaches the edge, immediately dash back. Later, a forced combat room where the gang is all present is made trivial by Brand's attacks. Then the final boss of this stage, Nameless and Mother. Nameless is a brand of giant tanks being made by Mother, the server behind him. This thing creates doomsday weapons and was deactivated for a pretty darn good reason, because it creates doomsday weapons. Graham reactivated it, of course, because money, and rather than take responsibility for it, he blames others for it being flawed, as if bro didn't flip the switch on himself. Typical billionaire behavior. Steal other people's ideas, take all the credit, then when it doesn't work, blame the original creator, and then downplay your participation in its creation. Anyway, the real boss is Mother, and she's a little camera eye that we need to coax out of hiding by defeating multiple Nameless. Nameless are decently easy to beat once you know what you're doing. You're aiming for the eye, and you can hit up close with prop or cross map with the revolver. The moves you have to avoid involve its arms. The right side arm will follow back vertically, and then move horizontally to the end of the stage. You only need to jump over, dash, then dash back. Or if it's a little higher, crouch dash forward, then back. While this is going on, the arm above is tracking back horizontally. Then when the lower arm returns, the upper arm will try to smash down on Beck. Easy enough, but the bottom of the arena is a conveyor belt that pushes you back and forth. Nameless' next move is using both fists to crash down in a wide area with a splash. This is another heavily telegraphed move. Just try to bait it into hitting the middle of the arena so you have more room to dodge. Lastly, rocket bombardments. These will carpet bomb from right to left, then left to right, then a continuous blast on the left and right thirds. You might think you're safe in the middle until bam. Nameless starts dropping some in the middle in a slow left-right pattern. It gets to be a little hectic, but this final bombardment phase can potentially be avoided if you play well in the first two Nameless fights. Once you defeat a Nameless, it leaves behind its skeleton. Hop on, and then use that to hit Mother's eye. I recommend stepping back a little bit from the eye and using the sword. You can get away with a lot of damage during the eye parts, being able to destabilize Mother twice. Since you can do so much damage, you might potentially be able to skip the bombardment portion of the third Nameless. You might think to enable turbo here, but there's this thing called oversampling. I'll explain it in the final boss section. Just know that mashing with good timing is better than spamming as fast as you can. After we defeat Mama, we get a little bit of a story. As I thought, Blackwell did not cause any of this. He was against the Trinity Project from the beginning, so of course he didn't want a war machine. I mean, he looks like an evil dude, but he's not evil. I wish they had shown us Dr. Blackwell first or more frequently, maybe some stuff to make us think it was him. That way it hit harder when it was the billionaire's fault all along. Surprise, not really, we have one more mission. We're going to the Coliseum, the final battleground where Trinity and Beck will meet. Finale Part 3. Bit of story. Basically, that's a terrible pun. I hated saying that. That was hard to say. That doesn't even work as a pun. Bit of story. Basically, we have the same power as Trinity, and so they can't easily absorb us. So we have to go teach them the error of their ways and how to use their power for good. The first room, the Coliseum, is the only place in the entire game where I got use out of Dinah's ability. There are large groups of sizable enemies, and they just eat Dinah strikes. In retrospect, I think it would be better to use Pyro and just explode instead. I mentioned earlier that the way the game works, we only have access to all of these abilities at the end of the game. That's 3 stages to put our understanding of the skills to the test. The ultimate culmination of our attacks and our skill as a gamer with a capital G. You know, I was born with an RGB keyboard in my hand kind of gamer. One of these stages is call only. The second stage has us use half of our abilities once a piece. This stage will have you using your attack of choice and propeller, and then the boss makes heavy use of the same abilities the second final stage had us use. This should be a moment of, awesome, I'm glad we actually need to use these abilities. In reality, only 3 are useful, 2 are situational, and the other 3 are irredeemable garbage. This isn't necessarily the fault of the dev or the game, but rather with the structure, methodology, and design ethos that Mega Man games has us use. Mega Man, and Mighty by extension, followed the 8 boss choose the order we want method of design. There are a couple Mega Man games that take a different approach to boss order that I think isn't good for Mega Man, but would be excellent for a game in the same vein as Mega Man that isn't Mega Man. You know, this game, the ones from like the other Mega Man games where it's you got a choice of 4 and then a choice of another 4, that didn't work for Mega Man, but I think that could have worked for Mighty number 9. You know, the game you're watching. Since you can tackle Mighty and Mega Man 1 in any boss order you like, it creates a sort of problem with platforming and challenge. Mega Man is plenty difficult to make up for this. Mighty is not. You can take down any boss you want in any order you want, and because of that, every stage is designed with you being able to beat them butt naked, fully cheeks out. This is a good thing, and it does make sense, but because of this, none of these stages utilize the abilities gained from the other bosses. That means that the platforming across most of these stages changes very little in the exception of later games and Mighty having some shortcuts and hidden items gained through ability use. This isn't utilizing these abilities to their full effect. So the final stages have you using your abilities to fight or platform with your full kit. That means that the 8 bosses exist as a sort of tutorial, where the finale is supposed to be the full challenge and application of your kit. Mighty never hits this level of full realization of the skill set. That's in part because of the structure that KG put in stone decades ago, but it's also in part because of half of the weapons in Mighty have no platforming application and just suck in combat. My suggestion was to take the bosses and divide them into 2 groups of 4, or add a 9th boss and do 3 groups of 3. The first group would be your buster only butt cheeks out gameplay. Then the second set would incorporate platforming and fight mechanics from the abilities in the first set. Then the third set would do the same, but with the second and first set combined. And then the finale or finals would be the ultimate application of the full skill set. The Mega Man heads at home are probably shouting, they did that in Mega Man 7 and 8, and we hated it. You're right, there was an issue with this. While I personally think this provides a more fulfilling gameplay experience, I'm not someone who replays games a lot. Deep Weeb on Blue Sky explained this to me, that the average Mega Man player is someone who likes replaying entries. This system is bad for replay value. The system that I'm suggesting is bad for replay value. I can totally see that being an issue. I'm sure back then they needed to decide whether they wanted to appeal to replay value or a more quality first-time experience. For the time that Mega Man was made, it made more sense to do it the way they always had. Sorry, but it's 2025, and we have a lot of options now. They could have included a classic option for a full freedom style, or a style from 7 and call it Mighty Mode or something. That, or they could have just done the style from 7 by default because it's 2025 and we don't need to use passwords to save anymore. When you beat a stage in Mighty, let alone the game, it can be replayed again. There is also new difficulties when you beat the game, like Hard, Hyper, and DLC mode. I think Mighty's weapons would have benefited from Mega Man 7's structure, because the devs would have had to think longer about how they would have to apply each weapon in the next section. Every single ability should have a combat function and a non-combat function, and both be unique to that weapon. Had they had to use the first section's abilities in the second section, they would realize what does and doesn't work sooner. This would not only ease us in and end up with a fun challenge in the end, it also would have eased the devs in, giving them time to come up with more creative applications of the weapons. The classic 8-way encouraged them to come up with the ideas first and let them put off the applications until the very last minute, the same way that we don't learn and use them until the very last minute. Mighty doesn't have to use the classic 8-way format because Mighty isn't Mega Man. I think the devs played it way too safe. They should have went with a direct Mega Man clone or something entirely unique. Instead, we get half-assed Mega Man with the traces of something more interesting in it. Rather than challenging us with the ultimate application of our abilities, they incorporate a new gimmick. There are these cells that we shoot and they turn into Minecraft blocks. As they're shot, they decay and disappear. The cells are both an obstacle and are platforms. It's a good platforming challenge, and in the following room, it serves as a puzzle too. Very fun idea. We get some more lore in the forced combat room, and it's what we've already figured out. Trinity was made to absorb, but couldn't stop themselves. They wanted to consume endlessly. A lot like me when I go to a buffet. So Dr. White shut them down and made Beck, who has the same abilities, but none of the hunger for doing it. Beck had that restraint and self-control that Call alluded to. It seems Dr. White was so scared of Trinity that he programmed all of his future bots to think things through before acting. I don't think you need a near Skynet situation to figure that out. That feels like just common sense. It feels like Asimov's laws should have covered that. Isn't like no murder the very first one? Not a super long stage overall. We get to Trinity pretty quickly. On one sticky Mountain Dew covered paw, the final stage being short is good because if you get your shit rocked, you don't have to play very long to get back here. On the other, there is a lack of any real challenge in platforming, and like I said, there was already a lack of the full application of our skill set. When the stage is short, it's even less so. All of the difficulty of the final stage comes from Trinity. Trinity is a floating mass of cells that she's absorbed. Think of cells as being data or souls. It's a collection of information of the robots in this universe. I haven't brought it up because it really doesn't matter. It's just the mechanic that they call Beck's absorption. It's called reselection, or when he dashes through enemies, he's absorbing their cells. But yeah, she shrinks whenever she spits out cells. This fight is incredibly formulaic, and she doesn't do much in the way of any variation of her moves, so just take notes. Trinity always starts by going to the lower right and spitting facts and data at you. She does it in a pattern of interchanging low shots with middle and high. Mega Man fans, this is the Yellow Devil. When she does this, run up next to her and give her about one body length of distance. Start swinging and you'll hurt her while also cutting through the data and not getting hurt. You will deal enough damage to destabilize, dash through her and then face away from her and cut the shots as she sucks them back in. After the second low one, immediately change into Revolver and go to the opposite side of the arena. Before I explain the next attack, people online have issues with fighting her with the sword. I see people dodging her shots like they're paid by the dash. Because of this, people will insist on not using the much more reliable and simpler sword. Here's why the sword isn't working for you. You're either too close to Trinity, or you're doing something called oversampling. I learned about oversampling from Call of Duty and using the M16, so here's the idea. The M16 always fires in a 3-round burst. Then it has a short cooldown before it can be fired again. So if you mash the right trigger, you would sometimes go faster than what the gun is capable of, and that results in you missing your window for the fastest follow-up shot. You're so buster-brained that you're mashing too fast, oversampling and then missing the faster timing. This creates a large gap between your slices, and that's what causes you to get hit. With an M16 in Call of Duty, you can fix this by double tapping and holding on the second tap. This fires the first burst, then has you holding fire to fire the next burst the exact nanosecond that it's available again. It's queuing the shot. Then you quickly let go and back on and hold again. This is why you die to burst weapons so fast in Call of Duty. It's very easy for someone to maintain the full fire speed without losing any of the accuracy. You can't do this maneuver in Mighty. You need to slow your mashing down a little bit to be more in sync with the available window. It sounds complicated, but it just means slow down a little and keep a steady pace rather than mashing. It's more accurate than mashing and then missing your window. Back to the fight. When you change into Revolver, run to the opposite side of the stage. She'll go up into the air and start to raise platforms. 3 of the floor tiles will glow and then rise. You need to get to the highest one as it will be eye level with Trinity. For me, the middle one is usually the highest platform. If not, it's at least equal distance to the other 2, so you can quickly adjust. Get onto the highest one, lodge the revolver charge in her, and then wait. She'll slowly sweep to the left, shooting data below her. Jump and dash over her, and the second she shrinks and turns red, detonate the charge. She'll repeat the platforms on the opposite side. Repeat this process, but detonate the charge on her ASAP. as she is now sucking data back in and will become invulnerable again before you can jump over her. This second shot will always destabilize if you did it right. Dash into her to cash it in. She'll repeat this and her yellow devil attack until you weaken her enough. Her next move is like Shade's wombo move. First she'll move to the center of the stage, then raise the platforms to make a bowl shape. Immediately lodge a shell in her, even if she's invulnerable. Then pay attention to her attack and she will shoot data slowly in a line that rotates around her. Avoid the data and detonate the shell as soon as she is red and try to land another. The second should destabilize her. After this, she'll repeat the others and this attack until you beat her. Once you hit her with that final dash, you'll defeat her. First form. Come on, it's the final boss. We all know she has another form. You should switch to fire, by the way, as quick as you can. Her first attack in this second form is to become a really tall, multi-segmented caterpillar thing. She's kind of like the Pokies from Mario. She'll follow Beck all the way to one side, trying to collide with him. So use Pyro to charge up as much as you can, and then jump and hit all of the segments, and then mash dash towards her. Pyro when charged will always do enough damage to destabilize multiple sections at once. Don't bother with trying to damage her head right now. This is not the right time. Instead, charge, detonate, dash through. Then, when she is just ahead, jump and dash over. There are other ways to handle this. I've seen people use cryo for this. You don't need to. Fire is much easier. Once you've dashed over her, she will rise from the middle of the map, making a bowl again. She'll have two segments beneath her, then her head. I suggest charging your fire once she walks off screen, then detonating and dashing the second she appears. Quickly change into Blade and stand in the corner and swipe at her. She's going to spit data upwards and it'll land on either side of her. I ignored this and kept swinging, and then dashed when she was destabilized. Bran's sword has just a little bit of overhead to it, but you might take a couple of hits still. She'll keep cactus walking and then repeating bowl until you get her to half health. The final attack is a platforming challenge. Don't bother trying to hit her right now. Focus on living. She's going to do some platform shenanigans. She starts at the top right and breathes stank. As she moves down, the platforms on the left will rise. Wait for a break in her breath, then hop up. Now she'll follow along the bottom right to the bottom left. Wait for a break and dash right. Once more, she'll go bottom left to top left. Repeat the process. You can down dash to break through the open space faster. The sides are easy, but the bottom scroll, you should use a prop to flutter in position and then dash through at the right time. Once she's done, she'll begin cactus walk and bowl again. It's really not that bad of a boss. I've done the first form multiple times with no damage. It's hard to practice the second form since you have to work to get there. In the end, all you need hotkeyed is fire, prop, blade, and revolver. There are other ways to do this boss, but this was the easiest way for me. I've seen people just make it way harder than it needed to be. A lot of just dashing around and junk like that when you really don't need to try that hard on this boss. They're overcomplicating it, and like part of me is wondering, it's like, are you overcomplicating it just to make it look cooler? I don't know. But the final cutscene leaves us off with a soft ending.
Yes. I did it. I did it. I beat Mighty number 9. Maybe I should have chose to done this one not sick.
Mission clear.
Hell yeah, it is, brother. I'd be shouting if I wasn't so exhausted.
Your true form. I did it! I mean, you did it, Trinity. We did it.
Excellent work, Beck. Excellent. You have surpassed even my greatest expectations.
Dick.
Warning. All cells in the area are no longer under Trinity's control. They are destabilizing.
Not sick.
She means that the whole place is coming down!
Significantly less sick.
The assimilation threat is gone. Mighty numbers, rescue Beck and Trinity.
Roger that!
Yeah, getting the squad back together. Real sausage fest, or maybe real bolt fest in here. Be girl now. Instead, well, she was girl before, but Or the Earth. Right next. Next, I don't want you up here. Yeah, the credits roll, the real one. Let's fucking go!
Trinity was brought under control when she absorbed Beck's empathy and caring nature, his heart. My new synthetic heart routine makes it possible for robots to evolve ethically, to grow responsibly. Just wait. This will revolutionize the science of robotics, the fate of all robots, of all mankind.
You got lucky, that's all. And cleaning up your own mess doesn't make you a visionary. Besides, who can guarantee the behavior of robots left to their own devices,
Who can guarantee
evolving on their own?
the behavior of
This heart
humans?
of yours is unnecessary, and worse, dangerous. I remain unconvinced, Bill.
Don't call me that. My name is William White. I'll show you.
Mr.
I'll show
Wheatate.
you and everyone else who doubted me.
You go, sister.
Then only time will tell if this mighty number 9, this Beck,
Go,
is
this is
a
the name of the
blessing
game.
or a curse.
This ending isn't great in retrospect because we know it's not getting a sequel. With that out of the way, we have some additional content to play. No one is playing the online mode these days. I've seen what it's like though. It was Inti's first attempt at multiplayer and it plays badly and runs worse, so that's skippable. We have a challenge mode and it's what you expect. If you play this, it wouldn't be a bad idea to do challenges as you go, as they can help you play the main stages better. They help you problem solve stages by taking away parts of your kit. Like the first one is good for learning to avoid enemies. Boss rush is what you'd expect. You play through all the bosses back to back, and you start with all of your abilities, but they removed your hotkeys, so you had to set them again. Also, you don't get time to change forms between boss fights, so you have to fumble with the controls to get to the one that you want for the boss. Basic boss rush stuff. Lastly, there are a bunch of difficulties to unlock. Hard mode, hyper, and maniac. Hard is a higher difficulty, but you have everything unlocked. Enemy positioning and behavior changes. Hyper mode removes pities, 1-ups, and you take more damage, so impossible mode for me. Then Maniac is one shot equals death mode. There is an additional mode if you buy the Retro Hero DLC called Insane Mode, and if your DLC code worked that came with your game, you can play Ray, which is essentially easy mode. I don't have any of these DLC, but if you really want to see me talk about them, let me know. I'm not opposed to trying Ray mode. Final thoughts. I think by now you know that I like Mighty Number 9, but with some big buts. The aesthetic, vibes, music, voice acting, sublime. The best part of the game is playing through the stages the second or third time. Once you know how everything works, it feels so good to just zip through the stage. It's so good at teaching you how to play. The first time you play is a little annoying and frustrating, but after you know where everything is, you just instantly master it. Like just getting over the game's handful of tricks is all that it takes to just beat the game. The difference between Run 1 and 2 are so very vastly different. I've never wanted to replay a game more. I did play through it a second time. That's where most of the footage came from. Just something in you clicks and it all flows together so well. This looks like Mega Man, and if you want to play it like that the first time through, you can. Then the second time, you play through it the Mighty Number 9 way. I won't deny that there's issues. Frame rate drops while using hardware 5 times the quality is hard to excuse. Call's stage starts good, but then becomes so unbelievably bad. The lack of expressions, charm, mouth movement, and emoting shows how rushed it is. At times, it's very clear that this isn't a passion project. It's not KG or Inti making the game that they've been wanting to make. It's no different than when KG was working with Capcom, except now KG is the boss, restricting the creativity of the developers. And the story is just okay. It's kind of just Mega Man story all over again. I think KG doesn't know how to make games anymore. I don't think him getting more involved in the process would have made the game any better. I think that if you got exactly what was advertised to you, Keiji Inafune making a Mega Man game of his own, you'd hate it. You'd hate it more than this. The skill set used to make games today are entirely different from back then. Keiji's an old man, and he just does not have the sauce anymore. It's a good game, maybe a 6.5 or a 7, but it's definitely not a great game. We live in an age where no one wants to spend time with a less than perfect game, and I totally get that. You have a limited amount of time and you don't want to spend it playing bad games. But it's become so extreme that even a 7 is considered dumpster quality. Mighty is a good game. The conditions surrounding it sucks. But goddamn did Inti put their whole ass into this. They really tried to make it work, and I love it. I'm kind of mad that I let the haters keep me from playing it for so long. Inty, I love you. KG, go fuck yourself. That's my review. I really suggest you wait for a sale and try it yourself. Get it on Steam or a modern console. Wii U is genuinely unplayable. Maybe the frame rate is unlocked on the game and like you can emulate it at a higher quality, but I do think it's worth the $20 that it is going for on PC, but you probably won't feel the same. Maybe people don't like this right now, but I think one day, like 5 years from now, some big YouTuber is going to make a video on it. They'll explain why it's not as bad of a game as we all thought it was. Then maybe people will try it again, and they might not agree with the YouTuber exactly, but they might have a different opinion on it than they used to. And when that happens, I just want to say, I told you so. I fucking told you. I told you so. I told you so hard. Either way, happy late birthday, Beck. Very late now. Unfortunately, I think this is the last we'll see of each other. Good night, sweet prince. Hey, so that was a crazy long video. I've seen a lot of people talk about Mighty No. 9, but I think most people have never played it and will never played it. So think of this as just a super long, not missing a single detail version as a form of archival of the game. It was a lot of work. I have 500 gigabytes of videos from my time playing it, and I wrote and rewrote this script 4 times trying to shorten it. This is the shortest version, but I kept making it longer and then going back and making it shorter and making it more concise. Even when cutting out some stuff, it was just still long. So I buckled down and I just did it anyway. Well, I guess this video had to be an hour and a half long. Bye. Oh yeah, before we go, there's a Mighty No. 9 rap song and it's the credit song. Hope you enjoy.
20XX, we living in the future now. Getting by a little better than we used to now. But it ain't all good, cause my hood's in a panic. So the government suggested robotic enhancements. It's to level the playing field, but they ain't playing fair, so they be forced to yield. Dr. White made 9 siblings, called the mighty numbers to boost competition. Always in the top ranks, they weren't dangerous, they probably shot blanks. But one day there was a cybercrime that made the top robot team lose their minds. Took control of the facility, squandered utilities. Now the world is in danger, are you feeling me? But one of the bots was unaffected. Now it's up to him alone to protect us. But most unlikely to succeed, lacking the power and speed he's probably gonna need. Once the weakest link of the family, now he's the final hope of humanity. In everyone's life there comes a time, and it seems this one is mine. My talents were undermined, now I'm the one, mighty No. 9. In everyone's life there comes a time, and it seems this one is mine. My talents were undermined, now I'm the one,